So God doesn't have to exist? So in my last video, I essentially talked about three of the very common or well-known arguments for arguing for the existence of God. That is the cosmological argument. I didn't come up with these, of course. These were made by very much smarter men than me, but I'm hoping to try to explain these in a way that could be more palatable. But anyways, so the three arguments I essentially was trying to make in the last video was the cosmological argument, which means that there cannot be an infinite regress of stuff. Everything comes from something, and therefore at some point in that chain there has to be something that doesn't come from anything, something that is just uncaused, an uncaused cause. That's one. Second one was the moral argument, the objective moral argument, as in like there exists an objective morality as humans, and not just as humans but in the universe itself, and therefore an objective morality points to a moral lawgiver or someone that put that there, something put that there. And if something put morals into the universe, that means that the thing that put it there is probably moral in itself. And the third argument I was making was the fine-tuning of the universe. Fine-tuning or intelligent design, common ways to call it. It's essentially just saying that the design and the intricacies of life itself, from the single-celled organisms to large organisms like me and like animals around the world, and plant life and the stars, and essentially everything in the universe seems to have such an intricate, intelligent design behind it that we can assume that most likely it comes from an intelligent mind because of the intricate design. And counterpoints that were raised in my comments were a lot of them were very good, very well thought out, and I decided to make an entire video addressing them. I'll put some pictures of commenters, shout you guys out, appreciate for the comments, and it's a nice conversation to have, try to understand each other's point of view. Anyways, the first objection I want to get to is I actually saw a couple comments that said this, that not everyone believes there is a way that we're supposed to act, at least an objective morality. Many people believe that morality is simply a result of evolution or an expression of emotion, doesn't have an objective standard. Okay, that's true. A lot of people do believe that. Another comment I got is that moral relativism is a position that a lot of humans hold, and that is 100% true. 100% true. So, whenever I said in my last video that all humans agree there's a right and a wrong way to act, that was a generalization. Of course, that is like in the same way if I say all humans have 10 fingers. No, not all humans have 10 fingers, or some humans have 9 fingers. You know, some people lost a finger here and there. Some people have 8. Some people were born with a mutation on their hand and have 11 fingers, you know? Like, but I made a generalization. Generally, humans have 10 fingers, right? And when I said that all humans agree there's a right and a wrong way to act, I meant that if you just look at all of human history, from the earliest civilizations, from the Mesopotamians all the way to the Greek, to the Mesoamericans, to the Romans, to the Persians, to the Eastern empires, so like the Chinese civilizations, the Japanese, the Indian civilizations, native aboriginals in Australia, doesn't matter where it is, all of human history, throughout all of human history, all civilizations pretty much have agreed that there is a way that humans are supposed to act. That is what I was trying to say. And that, yes, moral relativism is a position that a lot of people hold today. So a lot of people nowadays will say, well, you know, morality is relative to where you were born, or relative to your culture, to your time period and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, a lot of people hold that position, but the fact is that the vast majority of all of humans throughout all of human history have not held that position. The vast majority of all of humans throughout all of human history have agreed that they're like, okay, we need to act a certain way, and then if we don't act this way, there are repercussions for that. Like the Mesopotamians, they took the idea and the concept of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth very seriously, all the way to like even the Mesoamericans. They, like, in my last video I mentioned human sacrifices. They didn't just sacrifice humans for the fun of it. They genuinely, in their worldview, they believed, at least a lot of them did, that if they didn't sacrifice humans, then the sun wouldn't rise. The sun god would be upset at them, and the sun wouldn't rise. Or essentially, like, they were doing it because they believed that that was the right thing to do. That was their morals. And of course, they were completely wrong, but in their worldview, in their perspective, they believe that. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that is that of course we disagree with that. And there's going to be things that people from other time periods disagree with my worldview on. That doesn't mean that a correct worldview doesn't exist. So the truth is that if you hold to more, you can hold to moral relativism and believe that it is subjective to where you were born and your culture and your society. But by holding to that, you would have to also agree that you are disagreeing and in opposition of the worldview, or the very basic concept that pretty much 99% of humans have had throughout all of human history. We've all, majority of civilizations have agreed that there is a way that we're supposed to act. And although obviously we don't all agree on what those ways are, the Spanish had a completely different worldview from the Mesoamericans when they got here. Now, was the Spanish, was their view of everything perfect? Absolutely not. Of course not. But it was closer to what is true, because it was closer to being truer. And that is what all of humans have been doing throughout for the last 2,000 years. We've been trying to get closer and closer to truer. We're trying to get truer in our beliefs. The fact that all humans throughout time have this thing ingrained into their heart that points them to wanting, or to knowing that there is a way that we're supposed to act, seems to point to there being a way in which we're supposed to act. There exists an objective morality because all humans have had it in their heart to act a certain way, and that we're supposed to act a certain way. It is in the same way that all of us experience hunger because food exists, right? It would be illogical to say we experience hunger but then food doesn't exist and we don't even need food. We don't need food. Hypothetically speaking, imagine humans didn't need food but we felt hunger. Why would we feel hunger if there is no food and there's no need for food, right? You feel thirst because water exists and water is necessary for your body. In the same way, all humans throughout human history have had this experience and this feeling in their heart that says we need to act a certain way. There's a way we're supposed to act and we're not meeting that standard, or we're not acting that, or there's things that we're supposed to do and we're not meeting them, or it's hard to do them, or because all religions are very, very wildly different, but they have a sort of core like message. There's something outside of us and it's telling us that we're supposed to act a certain way, and we can't act that way, and we're supposed to, and we have to atone for it or something, or we have to do something in order to reach that outer thing, or something along those lines. Is sort of what most religions ultimately say. And that points to, why would we all feel this hunger for an outside divine being if there exists no outside divine being? In the same way, all humans have had this similar experience that we're supposed to act a certain way. That probably means that there exists a way that we're supposed to act. And that probably means that someone put that there at some point in time, probably in the beginning, because it's been there for the whole time. So, yeah. To the next argument, or to the next counterpoint. So about the infinite regress. The one really, really good point I heard was that the word before time exists kind of loses all its meaning. It's a good point, because before implies time. We're kind of making assumptions on how this stuff works, but the assumptions that we're making come from a place of logic and reasoning. Therefore, I don't feel like we can just roll them out completely. What I'm saying about how an infinite regress is not possible, although yes, before time, the word before loses its whole meaning because before implies time, the concepts of logic and causality should still be maintained. Again, keyword is should. We don't know for sure, right? But I guess from what I'm arguing from a place of, from our reasoning, this is probably the best explanation that we can come up with, is that there has to be an uncaused cause because of what we know from logic and reasoning, that nothing can't make something. We should not abandon logic and reasoning. From logic and reasoning, we know that cause and effect are a thing. We know that nothing can't just make something. You know, like the true concept of nothing, as in no No time, no space, no light, no energy, no matter, no like gravity, nothing. Like true nothing can't make something. We know that. So we know stuff makes stuff. What we're trying to do is we're trying to say what is most likely. What is most likely is that at some point in the chain of causes and effects of all of existence, there has to be something which is uncaused. That is what's most likely from logic and reasoning. And I would like to say that we should use the same logic and reasoning that has gotten us this far and discovering all these things and discovering so much. We should continue to use that. Although an uncaused cause isn't like 100% established in the same way that I can prove to you 1 plus 1 is 2. In the same way, like I can't prove an uncaused cause to you in that same way. In the same way I can prove to you this plus this is this. But I can say that it is the most logical conclusion. So as I was editing this video, I realized there was a really good point I forgot to address, and that was the latter half of this comment right here. When it comes to this point, I just like to kindly disagree. I'll put it this way. An analogy, right? Let's say you're in a cave. No, let's say you're in a forest, right? And you're walking in the forest, you stumble upon a cave. You walk into this cave, and then you stumble on this. You stumble, oh, you're like, oh crap. You like stumble, like, you look down, you pick this up, it's like, oh, it's a rock. Okay. I mean, you don't think nothing of it. Of course not. You're in a cave, of course it's just rocks lying around. I mean, you don't really, there's nothing intricate about this. And then, let's say you sit down, you look to your right side, and then you see this. Now, if you see this, what would be your first instinct? Your initial instinct looking at this would be that obviously this is human made, and because it is so intricately designed and it has so many different parts. Yes, this can more easily break than this, but that doesn't mean that this isn't designed, because in fact the amount of moving parts, or not even moving, the amount of working parts, no, when you see the amount of parts on here and you see how they're set up and you see how they look like they probably have a certain design to them, they look like they do something, you would be right, you would be correct. So no, in this scenario, clearly the amount of moving parts, or I guess these aren't really moving parts, but they're active parts. The amount of individual parts doesn't indicate less design. In fact, it indicates more. And I'm saying in the same way, if you look at something like this indicates more design, not less. Okay, and then the other part of that comment was just saying about what case can I make to indicate that my sense of morality is more appropriate than that of the Israelites. So I guess so by my sense of morality would be like the Christian sense of morality. There's a certain ideology / religion that has led humans and human society in general towards ideas that are now deemed as objectively correct. For example, the idea that slavery is wrong, objectively wrong. The idea that humans have dignity and humans have equal rights just based off of being human. The innate value of human dignity stems from Christianity. The idea that we're all made in the image of God, that's why we believe in equal rights. I mean, if you read our Constitution, it says we have unalienable rights granted to us by our Creator. So that's the core idea of why we believe that humans have equal rights. The reason why slavery has been abolished in modern days vastly because of Christianity. If you just look at history, all of the major abolitionist groups have been Christian. Like all the ones in the ones that started the abolitionist movement have all been Christian. So slavery would probably still be way, 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 way bigger than it is right now if it weren't for Christianity. Same thing with the idea of equal rights. Equal rights stem from the idea of Christianity. So what case can I make that my morality is more appropriate than the Israelites is that if you look at history, there's a certain religion that has led us towards things that are now deemed as objectively correct by the vast majority of people in modern society. And that is the Christian ideas, the ideas that have flourished and came out of Christianity and now deemed objectively correct even by non-believers. So therefore that religion has to have something to it. Has to be something there. It has to do with this. If you just look at history, there is one ideology that has helped humans, all of humans, the most. Yes, of course, there are people that have done heinous things claiming to be Christian, but if you just look at what they're doing, it's clearly antithetical to what the Christian message is. And another point that someone else brought up was saying that an infinite God would present the same problem. So an infinite regress would be a problem with an infinite God if that God wasn't personal. That's the key difference, is that because the Christian God, the God that I'm advocating for, is a personable God, a God that has personhood, which means he can make decisions, which means he can choose things, he can will things, he can choose to make something. He isn't forced to just exist for eternity, just in existence by himself as he is. He can if he wants to, but he chose in personhood, as a person would, in the same way that as a person, if a person is eternal, hypothetically speaking, if there's a mind that is eternal, yeah, it's going to exist for eternity and has existed for eternity, but within the eternity of its existence, it can make a decision. It can make a decision because it has personhood and has will and has autonomy. Belief in God is reasonable and it's rational, and it is 100% a logical conclusion to come to. Like even these counterpoints that were brought up are saying, or they're not saying that I'm fully wrong. They're just saying that it's possible I'm wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess it is, but like, what I'm saying is that it's most likely this way. It is most likely that there is an uncaused cause at some point in existence. There's not really anything to say that the universe has to have a cause, and saying that it must because everything has a cause, but the cause of the universe is uncaused is simply a special pleading. Why can't the origin of the universe be the uncaused cause? That's what I'm saying. The origin of the universe, which is God, is the uncaused cause. That is the single uncaused cause of existence, is the origin of the universe, which is the origin of everything that we know of that exists in reality, as in the origin of the rules of logic, the origin of morality, the origin of life itself, the origin of astrophysics, the origin of physics, the origin of gravity, the origin of atoms in as we know them, the origin of matter, energy, space, time itself. That origin is the uncaused cause, which also happens to be God. That is what I'm saying. That is what we're saying as theists. The uncaused cause is the origin of the universe, which is God. So yeah, someone said something about my boy George Lemaitre right here. They were trying to. Someone said that it was coined by a Catholic priest. He was trying to ridicule the idea, or strawman the idea. That's just not true. I'll leave a link in the description with an article. He had a huge contribution to physics and astronomy and cosmology in general. I mean, he had a huge contribution to the Big Bang Theory. He wasn't trying to ridicule the idea at all. He even has a law named after him, the Hubble-Lemaitre law. It's essentially the redshift. I mean, if you just look up his name, you can literally just skim through some of the he contributed to the Big Bang Theory. He contributed to some of the ideas of some of Einstein's ideas of general relativity. He contributed to the idea that we have about how light has the redshift thing and how we can use that to see the distance and how far stars and galaxies are from each other. Like he had a huge contribution to physics. Obviously, I don't know the man at all, but like he was way before my time. But clearly, he was a very smart man. Oh yeah, in that same comment, they were saying that the Big Bang doesn't state there was a beginning to the universe, simply states that the universe expands, and we can extrapolate from that it expanded from a very small point. And what I'm saying is that we can grab from that and be like, okay, if the universe expanded from a very small point, we can assume that probably is the beginning, because we're saying, like, not just the universe, but time and space itself originate at a very, very, very infinitely small point in time, very far back, and then from there we get here. How is that not a beginning? We're saying that all of time and space and matter in itself started somewhere and then it went everywhere and it's now where it's at now. How is that any different from saying that was the beginning of the universe that we know of the universe as we know it? That's essentially the same thing. But anyways, I appreciate all the comments, even if you guys were completely disagreeing with me, and it's all good. We can agree to disagree on stuff. Hopefully, maybe anything here got you thinking. And yeah, appreciate you guys for watching, and yeah, have a good rest of your day.